Okay, people, hear me out. I actually found the perfect corset that is super comfortable and you can wear it all day without having to get a custom-made corset. It's just off the rack. So I will tell you about it. But first of all, hi, I'm Tally. I do a lot of historical clothing and I tend to wear corsets almost every day. So now my days when I wear corsets are quite long. When I go to work, I'm usually out of the house for 12 or 13 hours. So I need a corset that is super comfortable, fits me perfectly, doesn't restrict me in any way and supports my back. And I have actually found the perfect corset. And that being said, I have spent a lot of time over the years trying on corsets and finding out which ones work for my body and which ones don't. So if you're interested in a general kind of like what to look for when you're trying to buy a corset, I have another video about this. And I did already mention this corset in that video as well. However, today I would like to talk a little bit more about it. I had to make some alterations to it for it to actually fit perfectly. So I really want to talk about what I've done and why I've done it and how you can easily recreate this as well. But first, let me show you the corset. It is one that you've probably seen me wearing. It's not actually the stunning kind of Victorian riding corset, like the ones that I actually make myself, the ones with little like lace applications and like mid-busts, and you know, they're really pretty ones and they're actually really comfortable. But this one, unrivaled. This is the demi corset from What Katie did. So as you can tell, the actual fabric has some stretch to it. So that makes it super comfortable because when you wear a corset, usually the corset size is indicated by the waist size, but it's not the waist size that restricts how small your corset can go. And also saying that not everyone wears a corset for waist reduction, but realistically, the corset doesn't need to be comfortable at the waist. It really needs to be comfortable at the ribs and the hips because that is where your bones sit. And if it's too tight on your bones, it is just going to be agony. So the waist size itself can be as small or as big as you want because you're just squishing into soft flesh. Whereas the ribs and hips, they're just always going to be there. And that is the main issue I've had with every single corset I've bought in the past. Because I'm quite curvy to begin with, so finding a corset that is even curvier than I am was often a struggle. Like I would want to go for like a size 22 in waist for a corset, but then even though it would fit me at the waist in theory, I just can't fit my ribs into it or my hips. So it always restricted me. So with this corset, because it is so stretchy, it just molds to your body in the places where you don't need any shaping. So this has honestly been a game changer. So now I have actually worn this corset almost every day for 3 years. Like this corset is getting close to the point where I'm probably going to need to replace it, which is actually really fun because over the years I've read a lot of reviews and you know people's opinions on corsetry, and there's also a lot of kind of like misinformation about how to wear a corset because you want to keep your corset really nice and not destroy it in the way you wear it. And there's a lot of kind of like, don't tie the ties this way because there will be strain on the corset. And hear me out. I have worn this corset in a way that I was not supposed to wear it because the ties were straining it for 3 years now. And that is not the weak spot of the corset. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how I altered it and what it actually looks like after 3 years of wear. This is 2 interesting things that I've just been wanting to talk about and share with you guys because weirdly there aren't actually tons of people out there who wear corsets all the time, so this is kind of my expertise. But first of all, let's actually put this on so I can show you what it does to my body and what it looks like. Let's try on the demi corset by What Katie did. Welcome to the 101 on how to put on a corset. First of all, you open up the lacing as wide as possible so you can fit it around your body without any strain on any place at all. You close up the basque, you pull it into place. I usually tuck on it a little bit at the front, and then we start lacing it up. What's really important here is you will see a lot of videos on the internet of people like pulling violently on the laces when really you want to be very careful about it, tugging on the laces themselves rather than the long straps you have. Then I lace it over the front and tuck it under the basque and hide the laces within the corset. So I am aware that when I'm not wearing my normal vintage outfits on top of this, this does actually look a little bit insane because it is just way too small. So I don't tend to wear a corset with trousers just because it doesn't really make sense. But let's take a look at how small my waist actually is now. So my natural waist tends to be around 28 inches. And now with the corset on, it's about 25. So I have actually gained some weight over the past years, and I used to wear this corset at 24 inches. So I used to be a little bit smaller, which means that all of my clothes are now a little bit tighter. But wearing the corset means that actually, like, even though I gain weight and I lose weight, I kind of can still wear all of the same things that I used to wear, which is quite nice because it means that I don't have to constantly get rid of all of my clothes, even when I'm gaining weight or losing weight. But also it remains to be discussed how much waist reduction is kind of acceptable, because I feel like I used to always kind of think like 2 to 3 inches, it's just fine. It really makes a difference. I did for a while try to like go down even lower. So I managed to get like past 24 inches. That was too tight. So you can kind of get a little bit obsessed with the idea of wanting to have a smaller waist, and you want to go down and down and down. So 25 is kind of like where I've just been stuck. But trust me, when I'm putting on my vintage outfits, this all will suddenly start making sense. So you know what I look like in my vintage outfits. It's the whole thing I'm doing on my channel. But just for the sake of proving my point here, let's throw on an actual dress and look at what this looks like. So here I am wearing one of my favorite Little Women Atelier dresses, and it just makes sense. I just love wearing my corsets with dresses like this because it looks very 1940s, very kind of like Edwardian, Victorian, without actually being properly in costume. So it just has the right silhouette, and it just makes me feel very happy. If I was to wear this dress without a corset, this waistband would actually be hurting me so very much. Like, the corset reduces my waist and gives me a good shape, but most importantly, it supports the clothes I'm wearing, because if I was wearing this without a corset, I would be in so much pain because I have such a sensitive stomach. So I'm not doing that. I'm wearing my corset, I'm protecting my body, I'm feeling pretty, and I don't get a stomach ache. So that's really important. And now we're back here taking a look at the corset, and I will tell you all the alterations I did to it to turn this from an off-the-rack kind of fits, but not really the way I want it to fit, to the perfect corset that I wear every day. So this corset has some steel bones in it, and I actually think in the corsets I personally made, I prefer fake baleen boning, but this just comes with steel boning, which is fine. It doesn't actually matter too much. There are some flat bones around the busk and then some spiral bones at the side. The only thing that I realized for me the first time I put it on is that these spiral bones do bend a lot, but they just don't bend enough. So the side boning that was like right at the side seams, that then needed to go into my waist and came out almost at a 90-degree angle, just wouldn't bend that way. So they were really restricting the way this corset was sitting on me. So I decided I didn't need those bones. I didn't need shaping there. It just needed to kind of stay in place. And I was even considering maybe replacing them with baleen boning, which actually takes the shape of the body. But in the end, I kind of felt like I didn't need to. So what I did is I genuinely just opened up the seam of the bias binding up here, pushed out the bones, and then closed it back up again. And now the very side where there's some boning channels, there are actually no bones in there. So this now bends to my body without having to worry about the bones. So that was one of the things I did. And the only other thing I did was I added a new waistband. So you can see here that I actually added 2 waistbands, because at this point I wore this corset so very much that the first waistband I added eventually ripped, which I ripped as I sneezed. I could feel it ripping. But it just happens when you wear things a lot. There is wear and tear of them. Could have taken the first waistband out and then sewn a new one in, or I could just sew it on top, which I think is very much like period accurate, to just piece everything together and just, it works. It works. So what I want to point out is when you look from the outside, you actually see where the original waistband is. So this corset comes with a stretchy waistband that stretches to your waist, but I felt like I needed more control than that. I didn't want a stretchy waistband. I wanted to have the waistband exactly at the size that I knew my clothes would fit to. So the size that I normally go for is actually 21 inches. So from side to side here, that is 21 inches, but I wear my corset at 24 to 25 inches. So I do like a really, really healthy gap in the back. But that is just what I have found to work best for me. So I added the waistband to be exactly that size to make sure that it will then work for me and my clothes and my shape. The way I've edited it is, though, a little bit different to the way the original waistband was set in. The original one just went straight across. But from the way my historical corsets always have the waistband, it kind of dips down, which holds the bottom of the corset in place. Some corsets that don't have the waistband going down almost bulge out a little bit towards the belly, which just comes from misshaping of the bust that eventually happens if there's a lot of pressure on it. So I've had that issue in the past, so this is why I applied the waistband to kind of go a little bit lower, because I feel like that's how historically the waistband usually sets. So I didn't see a point in doing it any differently. Like, it worked well for historical corsets, so I just did it that way as well. I've worn this like this for 3 years, and the corset actually held shape so well. So you see, there isn't much I've done to this corset. I've literally just taken some boning out and sewn in a waistband. And then I went in with a sewing machine because the waistband will have the most pressure on it. So I actually sewed over the side seams of the boning channels and sewed in the waistband so that it stays put between each of the boning channels, so that there's not like a random huge amount of waistband that's maybe like bulging up somewhere, so that everything is kind of like equally distributed. And once that was done, the corset was wearable, and I have been wearing this for like 3 years, like almost every day, and it still hasn't broken. It looks quite horrible, but it has not broken yet, and I'm so happy with this. I think this was the best investment I've ever made. It's not even expensive. I think, like, for corsets, obviously it's not expensive. I think it's like a bit over £100 or so from what Katie did. So you can buy this online, they ship worldwide. It's actually like such a good thing, because I know that getting custom-made corsets is really challenging, and I actually had one custom-made at some point, but when it arrived, it didn't fit perfectly. So it's really difficult to find something that fits so well and invest so much money into it, because it needs to be good quality, and then you're just disappointed because it doesn't really work, and then people are confused because should it maybe hurt? Because it's a corset, right? It should hurt. And people are just unsure, so I'm telling you again, shouldn't hurt. Should be really comfortable. It's kind of like putting on a shoe, and if it hurts, then it's just not the shoe you should be wearing. But obviously with corsets, it's a little bit more difficult because bodies are so different. This doesn't come in waist sizes, which makes it a little bit problematic. So I bought this in a size 10, which fits me at 24 to 25 inches. So you just have to kind of guess which size is the right for you. They have a size chart, so you can kind of compare it a little bit, but it is stretchy. And if you want to sew in a waistband to your size, you obviously have the freedom to alter that at home. And now let's talk about the wear and tear on this, because I always wear my ties to kind of overlap in the back and then come around to the front, and then I tuck them under the bust. So now I read reviews online and opinions of people saying, do not do that, because it will put strain onto the outer layer of the corset. It will wear it, it will tear it, it will rip. That's not how you do it. So I always felt like I was doing something wrong. But let me tell you, I have worn this for 3 years, and the bits where the waistbands are running towards the front, there is no wear and tear there. None at all. The only wear and tear is actually around the bones and around the lacing itself. So you can see all of the bits here where I pull on the lacing and make it tighter. That's where a lot of wear and tear is. So the fabric is actually kind of becoming thin around there. And it still doesn't really look like it's going to rip though. It's just a little bit of wear that's visible. But what really shows a lot of wear are all of the boning channels, especially around the back. So the bones are starting to poke out to the point where I need to sew fabric over them to keep them in place. But still, I'm actually surprised, because I have worn this so very much, that there's only maybe like 2 bones showing so far, which is not that much. There's obviously a lot of wear everywhere. And I think eventually, because the wear is happening to every single boning channel, I might have to replace this. But I still think there might probably be another year, maybe half a year of wear in this. There is quite a bit of discoloration. You're not meant to wash a corset, which is why you are wearing it with something underneath. I do not want to see any corset on naked skin. Don't do it. Like, what are you doing? Just because the people in movies do it, you shouldn't do it, trust me. It's really uncomfortable having the lacing dig directly into your skin. You don't want to do that. No one's done it in the past. It's just bad representation in movies. So I don't necessarily wear like a full chemise underneath it. I just wear like a little cami just any type of undershirt that goes underneath it to make sure that I'm not like sweating directly into this, that the lacing isn't digging into my skin, and just general comfort. It's kind of nice to be able to have another layer underneath the corset that you can tack on without the skin being dug in too much. And the funny thing I've realized for myself is actually, I first thought this was a mistake I was making when I was sewing corsets, because all of my corsets that I was wearing for a little bit longer time ended up becoming squint. So the basque isn't sitting perfectly straight, but rather kind of like tilting at an angle. And I always thought, oh, it's probably because I didn't put the pattern perfectly onto the straight. But the same is happening with this one. And so I've seen this happening to a lot of corsets. So I think I'm just not perfectly straight. So I must be kind of like having a bit of a tilted posture. So that's also something that's happening here. But because I wear this so very much, it's just actually so comfortable. I love this corset, and I will definitely buy it again when I've worn through this. And I don't know if I ever want to go back to wearing corsets that are fully solid, because it does a nice shaping job. Like my Victorian riding corset, I will always reach for when I do kind of like Victorian, early Edwardian looks, because it just shapes the body differently. Like the bust is being pushed into a place where it wouldn't normally be, and the hips are just a little bit rounder with it. But on a day-to-day, I don't really need that. I quite like my 1940s bullet bras, so I do tend to wear just an underbust corset, and I feel like it just does the job so well. It just gives me the perfect silhouette while still being really comfortable. And I know that it looks a little bit funny without a dress over it, but when I put my historical clothes on it, it just all starts to make sense. So you want to come up? Come on then, come on up. You're not even on screen. He says hi. So this is the corset I always tell everyone to look at, just because it's so flexible and gives you the opportunity to make it actually fit perfectly to your body with just a few little alterations. So I hope this was helpful at all and you learned something today, and that I might have helped you on your journey into corsetry. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the comments or send me a direct message on Instagram. I'm always really happy to help you guys, and I'm a little bit more active on Instagram than on YouTube comments. So if you desperately need my help, please reach out, and I am looking forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.